Hello and welcome back to another video presentation from trainingride.com. Today we'll be talking about how we will create a database. Now, you might be wondering why should we learn about creating a database? Now, I am not going to make you a DBA, but you as an automation testing tool expert, whether you are doing Selenium or whether you're doing QTP, chances are you would be dealing with a database. Now, you may wonder, how would you be dealing with the database? So I'm just going to walk you through a scenario and then explain to you that this is how you will be interacting with the database. So let's go to the site ehealthinsurance.com. Okay, over here, if you pay attention, if you take a look at it closely, the idea here is they're saying that they're going to be providing you with an health insurance in 11 minutes. What they mean by that is upon entering a zip code in searching for it, they will look into their database, the application database, and they will provide you with many insurance service providers in that zip code. So this application is talking to a database. So what do you care about it? You are a tester, so why do you need to interact with that database? We are not talking about interacting with the database of this application. What I'm talking about will be clear in a minute. So I want you to just take a close look at what I am doing here, and then we'll come back and try and convince ourselves for the need of knowing a database, working with a database. Okay, here we go. I would be entering some zip code. So let's say I will be going with the zip code 60501. Okay, so here I am searching for an insurance company in this zip code. So I type my zip code. I have selected in here that I am an individual and my family, I want to find an insurance. So I hit go. Now, of course, they're going to come back and ask you some information. They're going to ask you like how many people this is for, and just so that they could know whether this is for a youngster or a senior person. So they're asking us to provide some information in here, like your date of birth. So let's say if this is for me, I go select, and I'm not going to put my right date of birth here. So I'm just going to make up something, and let me make myself a little younger here. Okay, so that's the date of birth that we are supplying to the application. The next question the application asks is, are you a tobacco user? And I guess that would definitely make a difference in them coming out with a quote as how much it is going to cost me if I'm a tobacco user. So for now, I'm just going to say no. And am I a college student? No. Okay. Even though they're asking me for some other information, like if I am married, my spouse information, my child, one, child, two, and I could add more children. So let's say for now, I just want to go with just mine. You could be a male, female, doesn't matter. So you would be selecting your gender from there. The keyword here is gender. So I am supplying gender information, and I am supplying my date of birth information. Gender is just either male or female. And I mean, when I say male or female, I wanted to bring your attention to the fact that it is spelled out as male rather than mentioning it as M or F. Okay. Now, in terms of date of birth, notice that they have split the date of birth into the month and the day and the year. Okay. All right. So here we go. It is going to search, and it is doing whatever it has to do, and then within a couple of seconds, it is going to come back and say that, hey, you have a choice of 87 plans, right? And the most cheapest of them is starting as low as $41.98. Okay, I mean, if you are really interested in looking into the details, you could go in here and then see what that plan is all about and all that. Now, for our purpose, this is where I will stop and try and justify the need for us to have the knowledge of a database. Okay, so we are testers, right? We are automated testers. So we have to test this application to find out if I give them, if my input to the application is my gender, which is male or female, and my date of birth, then the application and the zip code, and the application is going to search and come back and give me this information. So there is an input to the application, and then there is an output from the application. All right. Okay. Now the the input to the application, if let's say if this is my application, this is that eHealth insurance company, and so to this application I am supplying zip code plus I am supplying date of birth information, right? Date of birth, and I'm supplying my gender. All right. Now, gender is either male or female, and the date of birth is split into month and day and year. All right. Okay. Or rather, why? Okay. So when I provide all this information to this application, it is going to do whatever it has to do, and then it is giving me back stating that there are 27 plans and the cheapest rate is X amount of dollars, right? Okay, so now this, we have just finished that for one zip code. Now imagine if you have to test for 2,000 zip codes, or for that matter 20,000 zip codes, if at all, if there are 20,000 zip codes in the United States. Probably they are, or maybe more than that. So if we have to test for each and every zip code to find out, if at all, if there is, any service provider, because if there is service provider in that zip code, that plan would pop up and then the dollar amount would come up, right? So now if I am a tester, now I cannot be, it is humanly impossible for me to put 20,000 zip codes with different combination of data when it comes to male, female, and date of birth into this application. I mean, it is not an impossible task, but for the next 20 years you would be testing this application and the world is going to move on. So enter automation testing. So in automation testing, what we do is basically we will be using some tool. The tool is either that or that, right? Is only one L, I guess. And in this, basically what you will be doing is you'll be writing some scripts, right? If you're using QTP, then the script is going to be VB script. If you're using Selenium, then the script is going to be either Java, or there are multiple languages which you could use, C#, .NET, or Perl, or Python, right? So these languages you would be using. Okay, now using these scripting languages, if it is QTP, or the programming languages, object-oriented programming languages, right? If it is Selenium, we will be writing a small code, or we'll be writing a small program. What is that program is going to do? That program will be reading this set of data. That program will be reading that set of data, and on your behalf would be passing that data to this application, and the application is going to spit out some output, and we will take that output and then put it back into some repository. All right, now, so where are we going to read this information? We are going to read this information from different sources. So the source can be the source can be a database. So now the information is in a database. So I should know as how programmatically I should get connected to a database and get my zip code, my gender, and my date of birth, and pass that information to this application, which in turn is going to give me some output, which again I'm going to take and put it back into a database. So now the question is, the knowledge of database is becoming important here, right? Why? Because your data, your test data is sitting inside that database. So you might question, you might say that, well, is the database only way to bring the data and pass that data to your application? No, because the data could be residing, if not in a database, maybe in an Excel spreadsheet. So in a different video, I'm going to be showing you as how to work with an Excel spreadsheet. But right now, I want to explain it to you, the need for you to know how to interact with a database. Now, we will not be discussing the code yet, but we will be seeing this part of it, right? There are so many moving parts in order to make this thing possible, but so we'll be looking into the database portion of it today. So now that we know that there is a need for you as an automation testing expert or an automation software engineer, there is a need for you to interact with a database. So if there is a need for you to interact with a database, let's discuss a little bit more about databases. What do you want to know about databases? What are the different types of, or what are the different databases which are existing in the industry out there, right? So to answer that question, there are few databases which are extremely popular in the industry. One is Oracle, the other one is SQL Server, and then you have Access database, and then you have Informix database, and you have Sybase, and you have MySQL, and you have DB2. So you have many databases, right? Now you might be wondering, oh, do I have to know all of those databases? Now consider a database to be like a car, right? And let's say Oracle is let's say Toyota Camry, right? And SQL Server is Honda, right? And the other one is Hyundai, and the other one is, you get my point. Now, in order for you to drive, do you have to be an expert of all of these, right? Not necessarily, right? If you know as how to drive one car, you would almost know as how to drive the other car. Likewise, in case of a databases, if you know one database, then knowing the other databases is as simple as knowing, like, how to interact with this database, how that database looks like. But the main concept is, a database is nothing but it is a repository. So repository is nothing but storage. So it stores what? It stores information. And what information does it store? Example, it stores, like what we talked about, zip code. It stores what is gender. It stores what is called date of birth information. So now what we got to see is how it stores that information. So inside a database, we are saying that we store, it is a storage, so we store information in it. So now the question is, how do you store that? We store information into what is called tables. So what we will be doing right now is, we'll be looking into how to interact with a database, how to store information. This is the information which we'll be storing inside a table of one of the databases. Now the question is, which one are we going to pick? Now the most hottest database in the industry right now is either Oracle or SQL Server. mostly you will find people working with this. So I'm going to be taking this as an example. So I'm trying to teach you how to drive. So I am the instructor, so and I happen to have Honda, so I will teach you on Honda. That doesn't mean that you won't know as how to drive a Camry or a Toyota. Likewise, I will I will show you SQL Server. That doesn't mean that you don't know how to work with Oracle or Access, right? So let's go ahead and then take a look into what is a SQL Server. How do you create what is called a tables or a database in SQL Server, and how do you store information? Okay, for that I have to go into SQL Server. So where do you get SQL Server? If you do not have a SQL Server on your machine, where would you get that? For that, you will be sent the documents which will show you everything as where to download the database from, how to install it on your machine. So all that documentation will be given to you once you enroll into the course. For now, I will make believe that you have the database with you. So once you install the database, then you have to work with the database. So you're going to go into the database. So the way I'm going to be getting into the database is I will be bringing up what is called my management studio. My management studio is the interface to get into my database. Now, here are some information which we need to select or input in order for us to go and then connect to the database. Right now you see that we don't see anything in here. But once I pass the right information in through this box, I will be able to see the databases in here. Okay, so it is telling you, it is asking you, okay, what do you want to get connected to? And if you see here, there are like database engine, analysis services, reporting services. We're going to talk about that later on as what is the analysis services, what is the reporting services, integration services, and all that. Right now, let's focus on, okay, I need to get connected to a database engine. So that's where I am going to. Now, in terms of server name, the name of my machine is trainer server. And on this machine, I have SQL Express as my instance of my database. So whenever you install SQL Server, it will ask you to give or name that database. So I had taken the default name, and the default name happens to be SQL Express. So that's why I have selected that. And now authentication is you have to pass some information as a username and password for it to give you access to it. So I'm saying that take the same username and password which I used to log in to this machine. So that's Windows authentication. So with that, I say connect, and it is connecting me to my SQL Server. And if you see here, if I expand that, right? If I say that, okay, I am looking at SQL Express, which is the instance on this machine of SQL Server, and I want to see what you have. Show me. So when you expand, it says that, okay, you can look at the databases, and you could look into security and server objects, replication management. Okay, these are different things. Security, and basically you need to add your users in there. Management is if something goes wrong with your application, you could go, and then if it gets locked, your database get locked, you could release those locks. You could look into the status of your. So we are not right now interested in that. If you are learning a DBA course, then I would take you into all of these things and then talk about like what this is going to do. What do you mean by SQL Server logs? If something goes wrong, you could look into a SQL Server log, and then that tells you the health of your application or your database. So right here it is telling that, okay, these are the databases which got backed up, and stuff like that. So right now we are not interested in that, so we X out of that, we get out of here. So our interest is in the databases folder. So I expand that, and I notice that when I expand, there are a bunch of automatically these databases I see here is because of the fact that on my machine we have these databases, right? If you look at your machine, probably you do not have these databases. Of course, because this is like my wardrobe. I have different clothing and you have different clothing. Now, if you need to create a database, then what do you do if you need to have a database? So what we will be doing right now is we will be creating a database. So I'm going to quickly walk you through as how to create a database. In order to create a database, I have to go to this database folder, right click on that, and say new database. Okay, then it's going to open up a box asking you, alrighty, you want to create a new database. What is going to be the name of this database? So just for the heck of it, let's say if I want to call this database as, because I'm dealing with that e-health insurance, right? So I'm going to call it e-health insurance, e-health insurance what? Database? Okay, so e-health insurance, or rather, how about test database, right? So this is the test database. Okay, I'm not going to go into this details right now because it will be too overwhelming. So I'm just going to say hit OK. So what it is going to do, as you can see here, it had created that e-health insurance test database. All right. Okay. Now, what did we talk about when we talk about the database? A database is what? A database is a repository or a storage, right? So I'm going to store some data into this e-health insurance database, right? Now the question is, where do I store the data and how do I do it? For that, if you expand into the database, you see some tables here. Tables is where you will store the data, right? And what kind of data we are talking about? Again, going back into the demo which I gave you a few minutes back about that website, we had to pass zip code, we have to pass gender, we have to pass date of birth information. So all that we need to store in here, because all those, remember that 20,000 records we were talking about, we have to store it here, right? So let's see if how we could be storing that information. So if I expand that, it shows me nothing. It says system tables. So there is not a table in here right now that can take that zip code and that gender and date of birth information. Of course not, right? Because we just created this database. So we created the database. The next thing is we have to create a table. So guess what? Right click on table and say new table. And when you do that, it is asking you, okay, give me the first field or the column name which you want to store data in. So the first one was what? Zip code, right? So I will say, okay, zip code is the first one. Then it needs to know, is zip code a currency? A zip code is a number. What is a zip code? So that is called data types. So if you go down, there are a bunch of data types in here, right? So depending on what kind of data you're storing, if you're storing, let's say currency, then you could go and take currency from here. If you're storing, let's say, a picture, then you could take that kind of a field here, like an image, right? So in our case, we are storing zip code is what? Like some text, right? So that is in the form of character, right? So I could either choose that, or the most popular field for that is varchar, variable character, and I have to give it some size. So I'm hoping that the zip codes are like 5 character long if we don't go into the other 4, because usually in United States it's what, like 5 and then a hyphen and then the other 4. Let's say if I don't care about the other 4, so usually my zip code is like 5 characters. So that's what it is. All right, 5 characters. Allow nulls, meaning can I have some row which will not have a zip code? No, you must have a zip code because we need that data. Okay, what is the next one? The next one, you might have guessed it right. The next one is what? Gender, right? Okay, now for gender, again, I can go and choose varchar for that, and the size is going to be what? It's not, if it was like M and F, then I could have set the size to 1, right? Since it is not M and F, it is going to be male and female. Male is 4, female is what, 6. So I could go maximum 6, but just for the heck of it, I don't know. Maybe I'm just going to keep it as 7 or maybe 10, right? So again, I mean, no hard and fast rule as what should be the size of it, but why take a huge size when you could fit male and female into 6 characters? So you know what? Female is female, so 6. So I'm just going to go with 6, right? Okay. Next one is I think it was the date of birth, right? Now think about this. When you are designing your database, you might quickly jump to this conclusion that yeah, date of birth is a date, right? So I could pretty much use a date field. But if you recall, I did brought it to your attention that the date of birth was split into month and day and the year, right? So I would say my this would be my month, DOB, date of birth, the month part of it, right? So I would say DOB month, right? And you might have guessed it right. It is going to be varchar, and the size of that is going to be what? Yeah, did I hear two? Yes. Okay. Now date of birth, date of birth. Next one, the next field is day. And again, I could just type that. I don't really have to go and pick it up from there. Anyway, so this is 2, and I don't need that. Then this is DOB, and this is year. And I guess it was again. Now, was that 4? Why? I guess so. Okay, so I'm going to choose 4, and this is not going to be empty. And then, so this is the input information. I have to provide the zip code. I have to provide the gender, date of birth, month, day, and year. What else was there? There was tobacco information and all that, right? So, but I'm right now I want to go very lean, meaning that I am going to supply only that information which we want. Then later on, I'm going to be adding the tobacco information and the other student information and all that, and possibly the spouse information. Right now, I want to keep it. Now, if I'm adding the spouse information, then this basically would become like the primary, right? So this is the primary insurer gender. So this is primary insurer date of birth, and then this is primary insurer. So that's why I'm calling it as pri, right? Primary date of birth. Okay. So far so good. Now the application is going to return me something, right? The application is going to return me some result. So let's say if I want to put that result in here, right? So I would say app what? App results, right? App result. And I, quite honestly, I do not know the size of that. Do you agree with me? Because we don't know. That line was saying there are 27 plans and the lowest possible rate you would get is $49.76. So, I mean, that was a long string. So I don't even know if it was 50, right? Sometimes maybe it is more. So how about if I take varchar max, right? And now, do we have to have a value in there? I don't know, right? Because the system might not return you some value, right? So there's a possibility that this could be null, because if you have put in a zip code in Oshkosh, right, then probably there is no insurance provider in that area, so you don't expect the application to send you anything back, right? Or it might say something like no service provider found or something like that. But anyway, so either this is your choice if you want to keep it as allow nulls or not. So I'm gonna keep it as allow null, meaning let it be empty. Okay, I guess I'm done. So I'm done designing a table to store information. So I have to save it. Now notice this. You have to go into the floppy, right? And then click on that, and that is going to bring you to this box, and it'll ask you, okay, what do you want to name this table as? And I will name the table as this is to get a quote, right? So quote quote test info or data or something. Let's say the question is, can you name it anything you want, right? I mean, unless and what are the chances that you will be creating this database? Probably you would be creating, because if you are project lead, if he says that, you know what, this information must be created by the developers or the other team, because they want us to test this, so they have to provide the data. But sometimes you never know. I mean, so it is always better for you to know as how to do these things. So that's why, and it'll help you a lot in your interview when you say that you know as how to interact with a database. So at this point, you know as how to create a database, you know as how to create a table. Now the next thing is to put some values into it, right? Okay, so now that you see this table, right, if I expand, you see this quote test table. So if I right click on that, and if I say edit top 200, it is going to show me that I could put in some values here. So I'm going to go and start entering 60501 is the zip code, and let's say male is the gender, date of birth is November, day of birth is November, and this is 1981, right? And let's say I'm done with the first record, right? So if I wanted to remember 20,000 zip codes, what do you expect? Am I going to be putting all 20,000 in here? Absolutely not, right? So I'm just going to show you one or two, and then that way we'll prove our point that, okay, we know as how to create a database, how to create a table, how to populate that table with information. So the information this time is the zip code is 9001, gender is going to be female, and date of birth is going to be let's say that. All right. Okay. So that is as how you could be creating a table and loading that table with the information. In my next video, I will be showing you as how to write the queries which will populate this table with information. Those queries are called insert queries. So I'll be showing you as how to write insert queries, how to write select queries to interact with this database. All right. So I'm going to close this database right now, and if you need to quickly go back and take a look if everything is safe, then you come back, open it up. This is the Management Studio. It asks you for your login information. You hit that, and then you expand the databases, and lo and behold, this eHealth Insurance Test DB is available. And when you do that, you will see the tables. When you expand the tables, this is there. And if you need to see the values in there, you could say select top 1,000 rows. Fortunately or unfortunately, we do not have 1,000. So whatever we have, it's going to show up. So guess what? It's going to show 2 of our records. And you might be wondering, what happened here? What is this? This is what is called a query, and this is what we were talking about in terms of this is a select query. Select is going to show you what is there in that table. Down the road, we'll be doing insert queries that it is going to write into this. All right. Okay. So that's a good introduction to what is a database, and why do you need to interact with a database, and how do you create a database, how do you create a table, how do you populate a table, what do you know about queries, and thank you for your time, and we hope to see you again in a different video. If this generates any interest, then we suggest you go to our website, which is trainingrite.com. Go and take a look into the different courses we are offering, and there are some free videos which you could watch, and if you are interested, you could be registering, and the registration process is either, it's on every page, either you could call us on this number 732-998-6650, or you could write to us at sales@trainingrite.com, and that way you can register for a course. Well, thank you again for your time, and we hope to see you back in another video.